All right. Well, welcome to the first Energy Bites episode of 2026. I'm Bobby Neal, and I've got my trusty co-host
and cussy.
Yeah.
I do that too.
John Calfan, the Rad Dad.
How we doing? Happy New Year in February.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was wondering the other day. Like, I saw someone I hadn't seen, and I was like, "Is it still like? Can I still say Happy New Year? Like,
appropriate?
is it too late?" Like, but no, this is an episode I've been trying to make happen for pretty much since we started. But I've got my good friend Hussein Shel here. He's the CTO and head of business development for energy and utilities at Amazon Web Services, or AWS.
Dang, you got a steel trap, Bobby. That memory, that's pretty good.
Good job, man. Good job.
Yep.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean, Hussein and I go back probably now about 10 plus years at this point. We lived in the same neighborhood in Siena.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but y'all were
We were neighbors.
5 or 6 houses down from us.
Yeah.
I think ran into you walking the dog, and you and I started nerding out. You were still at Chevron, I think, and started nerding out about data analytics. I think what there was
BI and data analytics
Yeah.
and Cloudera and Hadoop and all of the
Yeah.
fun things.
Hadoop. Man,
Yes.
it's been a minute since
Yeah.
I've talked about
Yeah.
Hadoop.
See, he's seen it all, folks.
Oh, this will be a great
no,
episode.
but
See
I remember
the gray hairs that I have?
But I remember that I think this kind of falls in line with our kind of maybe core purpose with this was, I remember talking to you, and there was you did some coding challenge or something at Chevron, and you solved it, and I forget what the tool was, but it was like, I think it used R,
Rapid Miner.
Rapid Miner, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a GUI around like R
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's like those kind of things where you pick
I'll
up,
tell
I'd
you
never
a
heard of
story
that. And
about
like
that.
now it's a tool that you can go try and mess around with. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if it's still around. It's probably
It
open
was
source.
bought by, oh my God, what is the company called? It's pretty popular. Machine learning. I don't know. I'll remember.
Yeah.
But it was bought by a bigger company,
Okay.
and it's part of their suite now.
Yeah. But you won that competition, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Within Chevron. So
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I was not a machine learning expert. I was not a data
Yeah.
scientist.
So I think
not
that,
a statistician.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's
So
a
I
perfect
think-
way to
think
tee
that
up this.
parlays right into like kind of what the conversation we were trying to not have before we got on here, so we could have a meaningful discussion on the podcast. But it's just like, do you have to be a web developer anymore to make a web app or to develop a mobile app? It's just like the barrier to entry has gotten so much lowered so much.
Yeah.
Just curious what you guys are seeing. I mean, it's since we recorded our last one, probably in November, December, like
Yeah.
the advances in AI have just been exponential. So
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
just anything fun that you've been tooling around with lately, or
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that. I'm happy to. So listen, first, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a long time coming, and I've been wanting to do this for a while. Just share my experience, my personal experience, my career, why I'm here, what we're doing today, what we want to do in the future, and just answer any questions and, help people in their journey. I know how nervous I was when I was just starting out of college, and
Well, can you imagine
and,
starting today?
yeah, I would say
Like-
especially
Yeah, how
right? I
crazy
think it's a
it-
very
it
different,
is.
Different approach, different prioritization. But just like we were talking earlier, Bobby and I were talking about how you need to continue to reinvent yourself and
Yeah.
just differentiate yourself and see how, what's around you, what you can use to be better and provide business value at the
Yeah.
end of the day as professionals, right?
No, I completely agree with you. It's the world doesn't change, or the world is constantly changing.
Yeah.
If you don't change, you're gonna get left behind very quickly, especially these days.
I feel like, maybe probably around the time that you and I met and I was getting deeper into the tech, it was like, all right, what skills can I learn
right.
that
Right.
will make me
What
more,
language?
like, do I need to learn Kafka? Do I need to learn, Python or AWS or whatever
or
it is?
Azure or Google.
Yeah. And now it's more like, what ideas do I have that can like move the needle, and now like just your imagination is the limit.
Exactly.
Seemingly, like,
Exactly.
Really. Or maybe some security policies as well, but
And you remember, back in the early days, we were talking about business intelligence, and you want to democratize business intelligence because you want to give reports, you want to give apps like Spotfire or Power BI, and let the business users, and now take it to a whole new level.
Yeah,
yeah.
Anyone
it's like
with
we're
an
gonna
idea
leapfrog
and knows how to
back.
write English, and eventually every other language, right?
Yeah.
Will be able to build an idea and start from scratch and deploy and and have it out in the market for everyone to use. And I think there's pluses and minuses to that.
Yeah.
But I think as a technologist, the fundamental things have not changed. In my opinion, this is again my personal opinion, is that you still need to know security. You still need to understand architecture. You still need to understand scale and user experience and performance, and all of these things are still the same. Whether you are writing the code to do it, as I did, 10 years ago, or telling the model to do it for you and to see the results and to confirm the results and do that. So, for me, I think that's the key thing that customers need to understand, is that it's okay to allow your people to experiment and build things and try cool things, cool ideas, as long as you have some sort of a governance in place and the guardrails to protect it from any type of data leakage or security concerns. And typically that's already in place.
But even like cost concerns, I mean, like a lot of these things are built on demand now, right? Like how long is my server on? That's what I'm getting charged for, right? And it's like, you can let AI write some of this, but if it's not optimizing it and it's just slop, and all of a sudden, like now you're talking about scale and it's getting hammered, with requests, or it's just a big job and now it runs forever, or it ends up just like on some infinite loop and it just running forever on a huge machine that AI spun up for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, wait, how did I get a $50,000 bill yesterday?
I saw I think it was on Twitter, but I saw this post this guy made, and somehow his Claude bots had, the whole premise of that is you can text it through WhatsApp or Slack, some kind of chat interface, and then they reply to you, but they're only supposed to act off of your responses. Well, somehow his got messed up and they were just talking to each other, and it believed it was just taking responses from each bot. And so overnight he woke up to just this giant bill. He maxed out all his tokens and all this stuff. He had to just turn it off. But it's stuff like that it's like, I mean, everyone that's ever touched a cloud provider has turned on a server and forgotten that they turned it on, and then got the bill and been like, shit, where did that come from?
No, I mean, and again, this is because the technology is moving so fast. The level of experimentation and unknown is just increasing tremendously. And it goes back to the fundamentals. Like you can put a limit how much you want to spend, right? Like in your account, that's the basic setup stuff. Put a budget of $1,000, $100, or whatever you want. You can put limits within the code. You can have the guardrails in place.
Use env files.
Right. And so I think those fundamentals will not change. And that's why when I talk to people that are worried about their jobs and worried about, how this is going to impact their job. To me, as a developer at heart, I've started that way, and I built my kind of career, and my reputation at the beginning was around that, and understanding the fundamental principles of system architecture is that those are not changed. And now you're simply amplifying what you can do. You can run, we all know how difficult it is to work in teams, right? Everyone has opinions, everyone has their own ideas, and sometimes it's conflicting. And you're lucky if you're with a well kind of simulated and well assimilated team. But now you don't need that. You have agents. You can tell them what to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what came to mind
them what to do.
When you mentioned like front end and stuff, is it's like, because the agents have gotten so good and they're trained on certain,
tasks and
styles, techniques, whatever, like even some of the front end stuff that it automatically built. Like I built a document labeling Streamlit app, right? And it spun it up, and I didn't tell it like much. It's like, hey, I want to view the PDF. I want to bar over here.
You don't care about the framework. You don't care about anything.
Right. And it did a pretty good job. Like I didn't have to tweak it very much. And it was just the first time. Right. And so like, it's going to be I'm fascinated to see how all of that, because I liken it to like when we were growing up, you had to defrag your hard drive. Right? Like you had to troubleshoot your computer.
I love the visualization.
Right.
Like moving those little dots.
Stupid dots. But like now that no one does that. It happens in the background. And so there's always this like technology curve of it gets more complicated, but they also abstract out the complexity so that now it's like kids that grow up with computers nowadays have no concept of how they really work because they didn't have to debug all this stuff and figure it out.
Exactly.
And I see that kind of potentially happening in the coding
at
game
least
as well.
All of us here have had to touch and
Yes.
write some of our own HTML and all that. And you're like, all right, I understand what it's doing, but like there's other people, and it may sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Some people it's like, I don't care what it does under the hood. Does it look the way I want it to? And it works. But again, one thing I thought of too, just because you said like it nailed it in the first shot, but I think another coding principle or principle that comes like is the whole commit early, commit often. Like, you should be using Git.
Absolutely.
And like when it gets to a point that you want to be able to come back to that, you better commit that bad boy. Because you might want to roll back to it after it jacks up the next step.
My experience is, a lot of like these models they still have, hallucination, and they still have their own way of doing things that could potentially break things for you that you've already finished, right? And so I see that all the time, with some of the stuff that I'm doing on my own, like playing around with some of the developers, the vibe coding IDEs, etc. And you have to provide some guidance. You have to provide some principles. You have to give it very strict guidelines of do not touch this or do this and make sure you confirm with me, because sometimes it just creates its own plan. And if you don't review the plan really well, whether it's a spec rec in Kiro, or it's anti-gravity or Claude code, etc., and you have to give direction. And again, to me, that's not different than telling your developer as a business analyst,
absolutely,
or as a product manager. Like, you have to give guidance.
Sure.
And you used to write all these documents, right? Now you got, you're just chatting with a model that's writing it, and it's phenomenal, the amount of acceleration, and the amount of productivity that generates, and we're seeing it. Like, for me, the difficult part is I got to stay within the framework or the scope of an enterprise, right? So there's a lot less freedom in what people can do within an enterprise that is conscious about security and data privacy, etc. And so you have to reaffirm that, and you have to have a kind of a data strategy or a data foundation strategy in order for you to enable these people. Otherwise, it is a wild west, and it could become pretty dirty and chaotic.
Did you see that somebody on the DoD got flagged for trying to upload documents to ChatGPT?
Yes.
Oh man.
And he was like one of the guys making the decisions for what models to use and what software. It's just like, oh my God, guys, like, what are we doing? But I mean, we see that all the time where it's like the company, the operator that we're talking to, they don't have access to any of these tools, but then they're like, the CEO was trying to get it to analyze some, report.
Financial report.
You're like, what? What's happening? It's it's definitely still the Wild West.
I think, just in general, like, and I've always kind of hated the term data governance, but I think it's bigger than data governance, but it's just governance. In general. And like, even it's funny because like over the last 5-10 years, it's ESG has been a big thing, and everyone thought about was the environmental side for ESG, but there's governance in general, and it's like you've always needed it, but now it's like more important than ever. I think just the the guardrails. But it's funny because it kind of moves up and down the scale. Like, you have your own governance, say even when you're within your chats with Claude Code or whatever, or you've got a cursor file or all these these rules, or like you limit yourself to these instructions or this this vector
scope. Exactly.
But then it goes all the way out to the corporate or I guess national wide.
No, I feel like we were already trying to catch up on the data governance side, and now it's probably even more amplified because you can download these things pretty easily.
It's for me, like, you can't run away from it, right? Like, as someone, as an executive or a technologist in a company, that at the end of the day, you have to protect around sovereignty and data and security and privacy and all of these things. But at the same time, you want to open up to innovation. You can still, it's not at one or the other. You can still build the foundational pieces. You can still partner with your software provider or your cloud provider to build the environments that allows your people to do so. And then it's just a matter of data access, right? Like, we've done data access principles and standard operating procedures, et cetera, for decades, right? Those systems of record are there as long as you make it secure enough to allow people to experiment and try different things within the confines of what they have access to, it doesn't change much.
No.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing it with an Excel spreadsheet,
Right.
or you're doing it with a vibe coding, whatever, pick your favorite application, right?
When the user's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Most like, especially the engineers in our industry, right?
Yeah.
Like we just solve problems. And so if the more barriers you put in my way, the
You want them to solve the problems
Right.
through the proper
Right.
governance channels, right?
right.
But you have to enable it because, like, again, and this is not new. This is shadow IT. This is like,
Exactly.
people
Absolutely.
like they're going to find a way to do some bizarre thing through Spotfire
Yeah.
because you didn't give them the right access. They need, if you just give them better access to the database or whatever, they
Right. probably
probably could have done it directly and done it the quote unquote right way.
Right.
But
They don't have to
yeah, they're going to find a way.
dump the
You know, like-
CSV locally, and then it's even more of a security issue.
That's why, like, going back to my comment earlier, I think before we started is, I think people are going to always find the tool that they like to use to solve a problem, and you will never be able to stop them. It's making sure that those tools are vetted and just don't, share privacy and data security with something else that you're not aware of. And that, brings, the conversation, the comment earlier about, why did I choose RapidMiner or NIME at the time? It was like an open source drag and drop machine learning workflow generator, right? And because I hated writing R, and I hated writing Python. Like, I don't want to write code. I'm done writing code. I wrote millions and millions of PL SQL code when I was back in Chevron and Pipeline, and I hated, right? What could get me the result faster, right? So I can show the results to the business partner. And that acceleration is exponential now. Like within minutes, you can show an application, right? Within minutes, you can create mock pages and sites and applications. It took me 2 weeks to build an application that is geo-based application personally, right? Playing around with some of those codes, some of those tools. Within 2 to 3 weeks, it was already in the App Store being reviewed. I would have never thought that could happen, right? Fully functioning, multiple users interacting with each other, simulated users, and all I had to do is just tell it, do this, do that, fix this, fix that, copy this error, and it was phenomenal. This stuff is powerful. I'm very excited. And then the Asians world becomes the other frontier of okay, I want you to build a marketing. I was telling Bobby earlier, I wanted it to build a marketing plan for when the review is finished, and now people can download this app. Okay, give me a marketing plan that has $0 budget.
Right.
I want you to do everything in AI, videos, pictures, posts, and it did. And now I have like 10 different videos that are all awesome to look at. It's like 4K,
Yeah. And again, and like I said, you could have that deploy it to all the major,
platforms
right?
on
just some API integrations.
Yeah. And you could even get down to the point of find the best time to post on this platform, right? Like,
I mean, there's already lots of people building, like, do market research, find the top 5 trending topics in this subcategory, generate posts and content. Like, I saw a post on LinkedIn before earlier today, and it was this guy using Cursor, and he's got like assets folder, and then a scripts folder and a videos folder, and he's doing it in Cursor, and it's like, Colin is asking us to put out some content, and I literally this morning asked Claude Code. I was like, look through all my Claude MD files from the last 6 months and give me 5 blog topics that I can write on. And it's like, holy shit. And now it's going to write it for me. It's like,
it's really, so like, and I want to bring it like back into the enterprise, because I think we deal with a lot of companies that, especially in our industry, that are hesitant a lot of times to trust some of it. And I get it, right? And that's where you start looking into chain of thought. You start looking at this black box. What is it doing? What is it thinking? How does it come to this conclusion and this result? And you start kind of building that trust with people. And so some of the things that we're doing around foundation models, for example, we're trying to do domain specific foundation model beyond just a language or internet data that it was trained on, right? And we're seeing some phenomenal results. Some partners that are doing it, we are doing it. Operators are
that's what they're doing,
adopting and look at whether it's a well model or a seismic model or a reservoir model, and some of the stuff, like, it's surprisingly well. The results are really, really surprisingly well. And so I think we're only scratching the surface when it comes to this in the context of energy and oil and gas, where we have worked and been involved in. So I encourage people to just test and try and play, and then worry about the governance and the piece after. As long as you don't deploy to production,
Right.
let
Yeah,
people
yeah.
just kind of run with it. Like, come on. You don't do that with any application.
But then
right?
it comes down to the definition of production, right? Because
Exactly.
it was like we had JD Long on, and like he had this whole Twitter thing, but basically the idea was like he went to IT, was asking why he couldn't push his Python code to production. He's like, well, blah blah blah. He's like, well, by that definition, you've got 1,000 Excel sheets in production.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Right? Where do you draw the line?
So I'm interested. And again, we don't have to make this specific to AWS. I know, like you obviously work there, but like I just think of it as like, say, cloud platform in general, whether it's them or Azure. But like, there's this very interesting value chain. Like you go all the way down and say, what, a few months ago, AWS with Chevron and GE are trying to do some data center stuff out in West Texas. So you guys have your hands in that stuff, right? Like,
from an energy standpoint, as a business unit, and I'll maybe tell you a little bit about what we do, and then what I do personally, what we're involved in. So our team is customer focused. We focus on driving customer innovation and digital transformation and cloud migration, right? We're set up in a way that we can support all the IT workloads.
Sure.
Think of it, SAP, back office, all of that, all the way to line of business transformation. So my focus is primarily on the line of business transformation. That's where I came from. A lot of the work that I did at Chevron was based on the work in pipeline or production optimization, water, CO2 flood, blah 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 blah, all the workloads, and then ended up doing some works in unconventionals. That's when kind of we met around the time where I was looking at the use case was funny enough, is like, how can we figure out well control events based on data that was captured unstructured, data that was captured in drilling reports and in daily reports that were sitting in comments section that nobody think about, because they were all thinking about measurements, right? Pressure, temperature, etc. And so I wrote a program just to simply look at those comments and build a pattern recognition of, there was a control event this date at this time. Here's the comments before, and did it infer something?
Yeah.
And for the most part, it did, because people were talking about what was going on, right? And that's how we think about it. And so those are the type of applications that I was working on in Chevron, and then transitioned to Microsoft, where I was asked to kind of help drive and build the industry for energy strategy on what we do with customers, what we do with partners, what we do with technology and services and products. And that's and what I do today is a continuation of that. Is how do we grow the business? How do we drive customer success? How do we change the way people are doing things, right? And that includes conversations about how do we source energy? What kind of partnerships we need from our standpoint to be able to drive the scale that is expected from our customers. What services we need to put where, what products are working or not working. What are the gaps in the engineering services that we build that could not meet some of the requirements of energy? For example, 7 years ago, one of the main challenges was, how do you run high performance computing for seismic imaging, processing, reservoir simulation, etc. So HPC workloads in the cloud, and the cloud was infinite, right? Is the claim, right? And at the time, it was not for HPC, and to a certain extent, it is not yet.
Sure.
Even now, right? It's much better. We can run supercomputers now for AI and stuff, but it's focused on AI.
But there's a ton of demand for that.
There's a ton of demand for it, right? So it's, capacity is scarce, etc. And so my job, 50% of my job, was to try to fix the platforms that I was running on, whether it's compute, storage, networking, software that had to do with HPC workloads, to be able to run the large customers like Chevron or Schlumberger or SLB or others, right? I am very proud now in TGS or in AWS with the partnership that we secured with TGS. After the merger with PGS, they're one of the biggest seismic acquisition companies. They run significant amount of HPC. We're running it now in AWS. We've been doing it for the last 4 to 6 months. They have the biggest multi-client data storage in the world. And so think about now what happens from a Gen AI standpoint and large domain foundational model when it comes to this data, and how we could use it for our customers to change the way they do interpretation or imaging or whatever, workload that they're looking at. That's kind of the broad brush of what we do. And then I can go into specifics if you want on some of the things, or just talk about the platform and the technology.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we can get into all that. I guess where I was wanting to go with it was just that. I think when you think of a platform like AWS or Azure or GCP, like they're at every level of it, like literally down to chain. You need the energy, you need the data centers to provide this service, right?
100%.
But then you've got, say, folks like Snowflake and Databricks that sit on top of you that need your services. Like this whole with that concept of like digital fiefdom, right? But like you guys literally get down almost to the atom level.
Yeah.
And then you have all the
electron, right? Right now we're starting at the electron. And don't forget, AWS is one of the biggest custom silicon maker in the world. We build our own ARM-based Graviton and Trainium and Inferentia, like hardware.
Yeah.
Not, a significant amount. I don't remember the exact number, so my apologies. But a significant amount of our services that run in AWS run on our own hardware.
That's crazy.
Because we can control the energy efficiency, the performance, the cost, and it's been phenomenal. And of course, we support Intel and AMD and NVIDIA and everything in the world, right? And we partner with the Databricks and stuff, et cetera, right? And we want our products to perform at the level that our customers expected, as well as our partners.
Yeah.
A huge part of my job is to make sure SLB runs well on AWS.
Yeah.
Back when I was in Microsoft. Halliburton, Weatherford, Baker, etc. So those major partnerships, and again, my focus is line of business, right? So my focus is those big partners and small ones, and I work significantly with startups, for example, because there's always a cool thing that's happened out in the market that either we see and we want to bring to our customers, or our customers are invested in it and see it and bring it to the market. One great example was the partnership we did. I started back in Microsoft and also here in AWS is with Blueware. And Blueware was, they've done phenomenal work around optimizing seismic data, seismic storage, but also interpretation of that data, right? And interpretation of 3D modules. So they had, I think, one of the first who built and deployed a reinforcement learning model where a user can literally on the fly, do all of the outlines and the interpretation of a slice of a cube, and then it will infer that for the rest of the 3D cube. And then it will come back to you, and then you can scratch and improve. So it was a back and forth, and it was phenomenal, right? And so, as you said, the stack is from the electron all the way up to the software.
Yeah.
And the question is, what is the workload? What is the problem you're trying to solve with the customer? And how do we bring the right people to do it? And so sometimes you find me all the way down to the hardware, or to, we got to, figure out how we're partnering with customers to bring, renewable or green energy into our data center as part of the partnership that we have with them, et cetera. So it's all over the place. It's like, and it's fun.
And then it's like cyclical because now you help your energy companies do what they do better, and now it comes back through to you all as well. So it's just kind of a wild mind F, if you will.
Yeah, no, I mean all of them, right? Like, even now the most, at least I know AWS and Azure both have pretty much all of the models able to be hosted in their studio. So does Gemini, right? And it's like, I think that's one of the more interesting things is everyone's kind of converging into the same areas, at least on the AI side, right? Like you've got a studio, you've got to have storage, you've got to have compute. And so it's going to be interesting over the long run to see where the different, what the differentiators are and how that impacts or doesn't impact the market and stuff like that, I think from the AI side. But I've got so many questions. I'm trying to organize them a little bit. Just currently, what are some of the more interesting either IDEs or tools you've played around with that you find kind of interesting? And
so I've been playing around with like a lot of them, and it's part of, for me personally, it's part of continuous learning journey. It's just impossible to keep track of everything, right? And so looking at, from an IDE standpoint, I tested, of course, our own Kiro, which has been phenomenal, very VS Code like, which is what I'm used to. I've spent decades in Visual Studio, and so.
And is that separate, or do you have to go through AWS to get to that IDE, or is it available?
No, I think it's available to download.
Okay.
Just download.
Oh, it's like its own IDE.
It's its own. Yeah.
And then
like Cloud9 or something.
No, it's not. And then I tested Cursor, and I tested Cloud Code and Anti-Gravity, and I think they're all. I would say I've always been a believer of an 80-20. Like they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It's just the matter of what you enjoy and what you feel comfortable using, right? So I started with Kiro, and we have a very unique thing about it with SpecRec, right? It's based on how we think about building services, structured way, like we talked about. You need the guardrails, you need the requirements, you need the limits and the direction. And it excels at that, in my opinion. But I also like, the skills in Cloud Code, right? Yeah. Or I like the anti-gravity, multi-agent manager, because you can actually organize it separately. And I've been using all of them, and I, stick with one for a while and then stop and go there and say, oh, they have a new feature, and I'll test it. So at the moment, I think there's a lot of that, but I think eventually it's going to be 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And again, it's the same thing, with Java development or .NET, you were a Visual Studio guy, and eventually people will just get used. And for me, it's just a tool. The point is, can I use different models? That's where the differentiation is. And so whether it's Nova from AWS or, Chat or OpenAI or Gemini or Claude, the ability for me to access and see, because if you look at the way they execute, there are differences. There are differences in how they organize their thought and their reasoning. And I've liked how Claude, especially Opus, was doing a lot of work, versus Gemini 3 when it came out was phenomenal. And I liked it. And I liked playing with it as well. And then I test Nova on the side as well, just to see the continuous improvement that we have in AWS. And so, plus I got unlimited tokens internally, right? So might as well take advantage. So I think for me, it's no longer about the decisions that you have to make on the technical stack.
Right.
It's now about the idea and how do you get to the result of the idea.
Yeah.
Which is, as a developer, it's a freedom.
I completely agree.
Yeah. You started in the infrastructure stack. Cloud kind of brought that freedom of, who cares? Serverless. Yeah. I just want to run code and see what it does and get a response.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care where it's running, how big, how small. I can tune that with a slider. Now you're getting to the point where I just want to build an idea.
Right.
Right? And I don't care how and where, and all of that, I think is important to start. So it's just a mind shift.
How do you see that impacting, especially industries like, energy, as far as like, traditionally very slow, very hard to take an idea to production, so to speak. Because I think that is one of the biggest like hurdles from an industry perspective is, we either have these pilots that on a small scale are successful and they can't figure out how to scale it up, or you just have dozens of different individual scripts that the engineers wrote to fix their problems, but no one's sharing that across the company, even though if they did, more people would use it, it would get better over time and those sort of things. But I think we have the FDE business model, and one of the wildest things is how quickly we can go from scoping with a client to a prototype that they are testing.
Right.
And then, because that, to me, one of the hardest parts of any kind of software or app development is that feedback loop with the client. And then it takes you a very long time to get to the point where you have an alpha or beta that they can then start. Yeah. And you might have totally missed the mark with that by that point. Now it's like, oh, you wanted it this way? Okay, hold on.
We were talking about that earlier, just like the
the ability to
months to get to a certain level.
Think how that impacts like Scrum and all everything. Of this kind of like for me, it's the freedom, it's the liberty.
I agree.
So from an enterprise standpoint, I've seen the best and I've seen the worst. And unfortunately, it has to start with a cultural change. Unless there's a cultural change, and typically and I hate to say this, doesn't really just come from the CIO.
Right.
It comes from the CEOs.
Yeah.
Because most of the companies that we work with, right,
Mm-hmm.
are energy companies. That is their core business, not IT, unfortunately. And a lot of IT people, I hate to say this, some of them are my friends.
Yeah.
Don't think that way. And I'm like,
No,
no, this, you are simply supporting the
Right.
business, and you have to. And you have to understand what they want and what they do, and you help them there, enable them. You want to be in tech? Go be in tech, right? Or tech. But you know what? I left the industry, came to tech, and I'm in the service of the industry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's hard to get away from it.
You have to solve the problem. Like there's a business problem. I get it. There's a technology problem,
but it's like,
that you can solve.
I think it's tough too. There's kind of a dichotomy because like, again, like I think if I was a small PE backed operator, I'd be like, give all my engineers and smart people, just give them access to these tools and say, go wild, like let's build some things that do stuff that we couldn't do before. And you have a lot more freedom there. But then if I look at, I feel like I've seen stuff from like, say, Justin Lowe at Chevron, and like they've created these little innovation centers within their companies.
Exactly.
And like, they're moving fast and breaking things within the confines of what they've got there. I mean, like Alex at Oxy, there's some really cool things happening inside the walls of some very big companies, but they have to enable. There's more governance, or they have to give them a little sandbox to play in.
But let's go back to the Chevron example. I love that because it's my dear and heart to me, and I was part of that creation. At least a small part. Justin, don't get mad at me. But I was in the conversation. Let's just put it this way, and it was all driven by Mike saying, we are an AI company. We're going to drive AI and technology company, etc.
Yeah.
So it came from the CEO down to the mandates of, here's how we're going to do it. The partnership with Microsoft that they had, we're all in. There was no debating.
Yeah.
Right. It was something that they have to do. They work with them. They sold their data centers. It was a lot.
That's right. Because that was how they were able to start South Central.
That was the start, right?
Yeah.
There was South Central. South Central.
I thought they bought
data center.
I thought they bought the servers in San Antonio from Chevron, didn't they?
No.
Oh, okay.
So there was a region. We just extended it to the because they was literally across the street.
Okay.
Right. The joke was we'll just plug in the network on the back, right? Or
just
through the window.
Cat 5.
Yeah. And I can't even say it, but I think in some instances we had to do that for a certain thing that I'll talk about maybe later. But to the point is, there was a cultural change and an empowerment for someone like Justin and Marjorie at the time, right? To say, and the CIO, of course, Bill at the time, to say, we need to do something different.
Yeah.
Go take advantage of partnering with one of the biggest technology companies in the world, right? To do something different. And how do you set up the governance, and how do you set up the security, and it all starts with these frameworks, whether it's ML ops or DevOps,
right? To
create a guarded funnel.
Yeah.
And then you work with your business partners. And this is, I think, where someone like Steve Bowman was phenomenal in his partnership with the technology companies, with Justin and others. Yeah. And he's on the drilling side, where he helped champion a lot of these initiatives, right? And he brought the business and IT together to work on something that is going to be transformational. And all the governance is through them, all the, the prioritization, right? Because you'll get thousands of ideas. How do you pick the right one?
Sure.
And that's a big deal before you start coding, right? And so these things change from a cultural standpoint. And I've seen, a lot of work that's going on around. Oxy is doing a great job with us, right? They're a big partner of AWS with the gentleman, Patrick.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know him. I know I can't remember. I worked with Alex Lack at Conoco, and he's been a big part of their AI, enablement team.
Yeah. So their new chief of AI, I can't believe I met him multiple times. And apologies, I'm just escapes me. The names escapes me. And he's done a phenomenal job. We're deploying things left and right. They're enjoying it. There's a return on investment associated with it from a business value, so you can quantify, this pilot that became a production. And I think there is no excuse to not do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because the frameworks and the technology is there.
Yeah, exists.
You just have to build the right
you have to be intentional.
Governance, and you have to be intentional on how you enable your engineers.
Yeah. I think one of the things you said as well is that I think a lot of people get hung up on is you didn't say scoping, but you were talking about scoping. It's like the problem with AI is that you've been led to believe it can do everything for everyone. And there is a world where yes, but you have to build to that point. It doesn't just,
Yeah,
you don't just give
define
it to the AI is my favorite tagline of 2025.
70% of what we do is typical traditional machine learning,
right?
Not Gen AI.
And data, right?
Just to let you know. And data engineering.
Yes. Like I think that's one of the more surprising things that the average person just doesn't know is like a RAG is just a giant data search problem. It's not, some crazy, sexy LLM thing, but it's intentionally done that way. And so, but the scoping piece, right? Like I've witnessed this well before I was ever here doing AI stuff, but operators or people just generally have a tendency to want to go solve the biggest, hairiest problem first. And it's like, those take time and they have to have a lot of buy-in, and like you have to, like, there's so many unknowns and all this stuff. And it's like, one of the things that we've gotten really good at that I encourage other people to do the same at is when you're sitting down to try and, you've got a giant list of problems. It's like, find one that is a low-hanging fruit, that's a quick, easy win, and then
build trust.
Yes, exactly. Right. Like your manager isn't going to trust you to go do this giant thing if you've never done even a small one before.
100%.
And so, and you also don't know what you don't know about the big hairy thing until you do a bunch of small ones, and then you learn the process.
Success begets success.
Exactly.
And often those big hairy things, like there's multiple steps to get there anyways. Like,
right. Exactly. Like it should have been, it wasn't scoped down enough.
Yeah. Like,
right?
I mean, I've got a client now and it's like, they wanted this, say, asset scorecard thing. It's like, why don't we build, but it requires multiple data sources to get to there. And like, why aren't we building each piece of this? Like they're all going to need their own data model to get there anyway. It's like, let's build the individual pieces. And then now we just pick the the pieces of it that you want. But it's like, you want to jump to this thing, which is like a down the road type thing. You just build Rome in a day rather than just like,
I agree. And a lot I've seen, like, oh man, remind me, a lot of like big data foundation programs that failed miserably because of that.
Yeah.
Because it was a bunch of architects that were thinking academically
and
wanted the perfect answer before you can. And, one of the things that I've been lucky, and knock on wood, is I've always been a practical architect.
Yeah.
Meaning like there's a problem we're trying to solve. What is the fastest path to solve it? And then I can figure out the rest.
Yeah, you can build momentum and
Because you need to build trust and momentum and show results. It doesn't have to be 100%. Yeah. Nobody expects perfect, right?
It never was.
It never was. Right. And so
that's my favorite argument is it's like, what do you mean it only gets me 80% of the answer? And it's like 80% is a lot bigger than zero, which is what it currently is.
Right.
Like,
now, don't get me wrong. There are things that have, implications of security or safety that you have to, you can think about airlines and even like pipeline, et cetera. For us in the industry, like those are important things that you want that rigor.
Yeah.
And I can tell you 90% of the time, they're not 100%.
Right.
They're 99.999. Right. And so it's a question of how many nines you can be okay with. But the important thing is to build that trust and to show the results. And now, as we said, in the technology, like with the new technology, you can really, from an idea to a prototype, it's minutes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
I think you hit on it too, like just like the average person. Like I think we forget, like we sit in our circles of people that are like,
I know,
and we're on the very far end of the bell curve. And it's like, I still talk to my parents or my wife or something. And it's like, you shouldn't be doing that. Like,
please stop doing that.
Like, well, here's a funny one for you from a professional setting. I was asked to present at a group of private equity firm, and they invited all the CIOs and CTOs of their companies that they their whatever they call them, right? Investment companies, and they were presenting all the success stories. And I'm saying this was not like 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago. And I'm in New York. I'm meeting with them. And I'm a guest speaker. I'm talking about what we're doing, all the crazy cool stuff after they were presenting. And I'm not joking. I would say 50% of the success stories that they were sharing was we built a business intelligence platform, uses SSRS and Power BI and Spotfire. And we've showed 3 to 10% improvement in production or cost reduction or whatever the case. And there's so many companies that are still living in that world where I'm like, it's great. It gave you like great results, but I'm sitting in my seat like on fire. I'm like, oh my God, imagine what you can do now with all the things that you have today.
Yeah.
And so when I started presenting and talking about the kind of latest and greatest technologies, what we're doing, and all of it, especially Gen AI and compute and cloud enablement and adoption, etc., you can look at everyone's eyes in the room, and they're like, we have decades and decades of technical debt that and lack of improvements, and so those opportunities are amazing, and I can tell you, big and small operators have it.
But again, I walk in places and there's, they don't even have a formal SQL Server database that they're doing these things out of, and it's like even that
they're running a production application on SQL Express. I've seen it literally like
Access
weeks ago,
Access,
right,
Excel.
or with Access, so as a technologist, you look at this and you're like scratching your head because you want to make it brighter and shinier, right? But then I think you have to be humble enough to say, it's working for them.
Yeah.
It proved a point. It solved a problem, and the business is happy with it.
Yeah.
Imagine the cost of disruption to move something from, let's say, there's still Hadoop clusters everywhere into, a modern data warehouse.
Mainframes still, right?
Data lake house. Absolutely, right? And so you gotta have to step back and say, you know what, that's okay.
Yeah.
I can help them maybe at some point in time, or if they want the effort, but I come across these situations a lot, and it's not, man, I have to stop myself from saying,
for sure.
What?
I think we see a lot
Stone Age. Like, what's going on?
Oil and gas, especially too. I mean, at the end of the, like, if you're getting the oil out of the ground and you're not spending a ton of money, like, I mean, like,
exactly.
That's the thing that I think is the most interesting kind of promise with some of this stuff is that, in the short term today, it's not going to take your job by any means. It's more than likely just going to automate a lot of the stuff that you hate doing. That is probably not value add.
Where I was going earlier, some people don't even think about that.
Right.
Like they're still banging their head against, the wall for days on end with an Excel spreadsheet or, building these PowerPoints and
system of record.
And they don't even think about using AI for anything.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like the future of these companies looks very, very different. I listened to Thinking Machines on our road trip to Oklahoma City this past weekend, and one of the big things he kind of harps on is, the subject matter expert is the most important person in the future, because at the end of the day, there is a long time period from whatever 2-3 years ago when this kind of started to when all humans automatically are comfortable and accept and trust the output of these things.
Yeah.
And so up until that point, the subject matter expert is the one who has to make the decision at the end of the day. And they're also the one helping refine the model every time they give it a feedback.
Yeah, and think of it this way, like a lot of decisions made in our industry specifically is around reducing risk. Risk of a environmental problem or a safety problem or an investment problem. Almost everything, right? And so I don't think we'll see models make those decisions for our business partners in any time. So you're still going to need the SME. You still need the human in the loop is so important and will continue to be so important in almost everything we do in the industries, given the regulations and the safety concerns. The question is, how much do you automate?
Right.
And how much do you make those decisions visible to the subject matter expert on how you came to that conclusion, and then let them make the right choice. That's how I tell everybody, whether it's from seismic interpretation or building a small little financial, application that's gonna look at, whatever data.
Yeah.
Right. That's for me is not gonna go away anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So like enabling that now allows you to scale the company in a much different way than historically you would, right? Like if you have someone like this regulatory automation stuff that we've done, they no longer have to have a person to do the regulatory filings, no matter how many wells they have. And that was a linear thing that before we added that automation,
you get to a certain capacity and then you need another person.
You need another person. And so it's like it's kind of crazy to think that you will have energy companies that are like tech unicorns in the future, where it's like a 50 to 100 person team of experts.
Well, so think of it this way. I've asked this to a couple of our customers, like, if you can start from scratch today, how would you build your company?
Like a first principles kind of
like just think of it like if you want to build an AI first energy company today and you have a chance to build it from scratch, would you build it the same way you did? And most of the answers is no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? No, that's the most exciting
so
thing.
now it's the sunk cost fallacy in place, right? You know, and that kind of triggered in my mind when you were talking about, say, some of these companies that have been laggards, is that actually almost a benefit now with where it's at? You know, some of these companies have this technical debt and they have all this just in their mind, this investment in what they've been doing for the last 10, 15 years on the data, trying to be on the bleeding edge of tech and data and all these things. And then again, some of them probably set really good foundations for themselves if they have good data behind it and they can just layer on the AI and be off to the races. But like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong and I don't know how much you can speak, but like, I know at GME, we were fairly tech forward for coming to like, say, we had a guy come over from Kraken and Kraken still wasn't doing much on that side, but now they're leaning in with you guys. And like, I don't think they had a ton of like data or tech infrastructure, but now like they can just lean right into the best, that's latest and greatest.
You have kind of two camps there. You have what you mentioned where it's like, you know, a GME type thing where they've exited a prior company, now have funding and are now going to do the next one. And so they're literally saying, how do we make from scratch this company AI native, right? And a lot of the time it's not just because there's shiny new tools, but it's also because these people have been in this industry for long enough and they have been burned by these software companies that they no longer see, you know, the benefit from if you can do certain things with different AI tools, because, you know, and then you also have the laggards who just never got on the BI data train really, which they still have the data journey that they're going to have to go down, which that doesn't go away. But you are in a sense kind of able to leapfrog in certain ways, you know, what you can do today because you're not married to another system. The
inertia you have to overcome.
Right. You don't have to overcome
100%.
the change cost of moving from one to another or whatever, like that. So it's very interesting to see that. It's exciting too, to see these people be like, hey, how would I do this from zero?
Yeah.
Right. Or like,
and that's happening in all industries. Right?
Yeah.
That's happening in all industries. Some are faster. You know, I think like financial services have been phenomenal in adopting quickly technology that comes along, whether it's cloud or AI or data, you know, because I think there's not a lot of complex manufacturing processes that they have to deal with.
Sure. Yeah,
we have to deal with significant amount of complexity and safety and environmental and regulations. And so I completely understand the lagginess of it. But I think at the same time, the industry has been a phenomenal innovator when it comes to engineering milestones and engineering, you know, achievements in drilling thousands and thousands of underground wells in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And with, you know, it's just,
I mean, the precision and accuracy.
Accuracy and the engineering, you know, chops are important.
That's the most exciting thing for me, and just my personal experience with this stuff is it's like if you can empower a subject matter expert with the ability to go code and build tools for themselves, like holy shit, you know, you're off to the races. Because most of the time the struggle comes from getting the SME to communicate all of the details and all of the nuance and all of the specifics and the edge cases to the project manager, who then has to turn around and communicate it back down to the dev team.
Business analyst.
Right. Like, and so it's just the communication piece, right? You're going direct to the source instead of going through a waterfall of different people that, you know, as you get further away, have less and less understanding of what it is you even do. That to me is like,
but can you give now that reservoir engineer, completion engineer, you know, their own little sandbox? And it used to be, you know, a lot of these people would just learn Python because they had to, but like, but now could they, you know, give them the proper governance guardrails to work within, but can they spin up what they need and then just say, hey, I need this deployed?
And just build a staging environment. And, you know, don't forget about, you know,
don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
That's how
one of the things, and I think I told you this, you know, a long time ago. One of the reasons why, you know, I left Chevron at the time, where I decided to pursue other opportunities, was that we were working on a big, you know, data platform, data lake initiative for multiple years. It was around unconventionals and, you know, primarily North America operations, etc. And he was taking us, you know, months and months and years of setting up the cluster and the Hadoop and trying to figure out how do you deploy, and how do you store. And at the time, I started kind of learning cloud and cloud technologies and services. And it was like one of those light bulb moments where I spun up an Azure data lake at the time in like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I understand. There's no governance, there's no security, there's no nothing. But just the fact that now I have a data lake.
Yeah, I can start
dumping data and analyzing it with a click of a button versus having to go through for months and months of rigor for no reason really. Was a turning point for me personally when I said, okay, this is, and now I think the stage of Gen AI and the technology that's doing is another kind of huge evolution of technology that I think is going to cause a tremendous change in our industry and how we use it and how do we benefit from it and how do we use it properly.
Well, even just think about, I mean, like, and you said earlier, you're part of like migrations and stuff too, but like just think about migrations. Like if, say if I was going to go from a Teradata to Athena or Snowflake to Athena or, by whatever direction you're going, like,
exactly.
I mean, we could convert a whole code base of, code from, this dialect to this dialect or Spark to this. Or
forget about like all this modern stuff. I'm looking at Fortran code.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to modernize it. And
can you refactor it into Rust or something?
And it's like, okay.
I was going to ask you that actually about, because you mentioned like tech debt and stuff earlier, but like, because I mean, we're literally about to redeploy the front end that we've completely rewritten in React in like 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Because of Claude Code. Like, it is absolutely crazy that we're able to do that. It might have been a
amazing,
little bit longer,
right?
but yeah,
it's amazing.
Like, does tech debt just go away now because we have the ability to do this? I don't know, but it's
it's either it's gonna accelerate some tech debt,
right? It's gonna accelerate
it's gonna add a lot.
Tech debt.
It's gonna add a lot, but I think adding the tech debt, because so many people are going to be doing so much, with the ability to remove it very quickly as well, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Before, people were experimenting, whether you liked it or not, and people were creating technical debt, and it was not easy to get rid of.
No,
it was horrible. Nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted even like the simple thing of documenting your code.
Just documentation.
documentation. You don't even have to think about that now. It will document, right? And so that's the paradigm shift that I think people in the industry, whether technical or subject matter expert, need to understand. That this is now a different way of thinking about building solutions and applications and solving a problem.
Yeah, well, even that, right? Like for me, when I talk to our clients, like the criteria I have for a good pilot candidate is it's repetitive. It's normally something that is low to no value add to the company, but has to be done. And the last one is usually the user hates doing it. And it's like documentation on code. That used to be everyone's, like, some people loved it. And most people hate it, right? Because it's like you end up doing it after the fact most of the time. And then it's just, it's there, but it's what you did anyways. Exactly. It's a necessary evil that you should do. Most people do very poorly because they just don't want to, or and so like those are perfect. That's a perfect example of like, this is why it's useful to automate these things, because now not only does it document everything,
generating a README file,
right? Like, like
here's the other thing that I tell my customers all the time is like, a lot of these big challenges of how you take it on and you make it part of your process and more mature, is that you don't have to figure out on your own.
Right.
Like, you have system integrators that will die to do this work for you.
Yeah.
You have cloud partners that their only job, people that are resources that are in these cloud partners, right, is to do that for you.
Yeah.
So focus on the business value.
Right.
Forget about the plumbing.
Yeah.
The plumbing can be done. It's easy, simple. Setting up the environments, the frameworks, the ML ops, the DevOps, all of this can be done through your partners, whether it's the cloud or solution or the technology providers, right? And a lot of it sometimes is free.
Yeah.
Right? So why not take advantage of it?
100%.
And then just focus on providing value to your customer internally. That's, anyways. So, what else?
We're rolling up on we're pretty much on the hour. It always happens. It goes really quick. But
yeah. This was fun.
We're jump in the speed round real quick, or
do you
have anything else?
I'll get creative on the speed round. That'll work with.
I didn't know there was a speed
final
round.
questions. Well, normally they're just like Where do you like to, what's your favorite restaurant here or whatever?
Oh man, I can talk about
But
this all day long.
I want to ask what is something you're most excited about and most not necessarily cautious, but worried about from, a AI perspective in the industry?
So that's a very good question. I am extremely excited about the potential of vibe coding and the potential of the tools that we have now at our disposal as technologists, as business experts, subject matter experts, etc., to solve problems. I think we are only scratching the surface, right? I think of from research. I was reading a document that was written by one of the main developers of OpenAI, ChatGPT 3, etc., the model. And it was just talking about the exponential growth and improvement in these models over the years, given the compute acceleration, right? And so, and this was 3 years ago, and now I'm seeing it happening, right? Like I'm seeing Asians take over the world, basically doing tasks that nobody wants to do, doing a lot of automation, and I can do it myself. I have access to it and all my customers, etc. And I can see the exponential growth of productivity happening, right? On the flip side, I think the energy demand of this technology is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And the numbers that nations are starting to talk about, the hundreds and tens of gigawatts, it has to come from somewhere. And if we don't do it properly as humans, I think we'll have a significant impact. So I think that's what worries me a little bit.
And you can't not invest in it because these are matters really of national security.
National security, this will transform human, life. And I think we have to be conscious of that. And we have to work on how do we solve it, as a group of intellectuals and decision makers and politicians, etc. And I think that's an area of concern.
For sure. That's why I'm bullish natural gas. It's like in the short term, nuclear, it's not coming from anything.
All right, I'm going to throw you more of a softball.
Many options, right?
Yes.
I got more of a softball for you. Sure. Your favorite Lebanese or Mediterranean restaurant in Houston?
Oh, man.
Are you Lebanese?
I'm Lebanese. Okay, nice. Born and raised. Moved here when I was 18. Two of them. And it's hard for me to say which one because they're different. One of them is a butcher shop called Musa.
Okay.
It's on Westheimer and between Hillcroft and Fondren.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a butcher shop, but they have a little restaurant. So the meat is extremely fresh. Everything is amazing there. They have one of the best chicken sandwiches you'll eat in your life.
Nice.
And it's a charcoal grilled chicken sandwich. But you can also go and order their kebab mix. So they have everything. It's amazing. And it's just about the quality of the meat.
Right.
The other restaurant is Abdallah's. It's one of the oldest restaurants in Houston, I believe.
Okay.
They just reopened. They used to be on Hillcroft and reopened a brand new restaurant on Studemont and I-10.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
They do, they're one of the few restaurants who do home cooked meals, basically like house meals that you see, growing up in a restaurant. And they have phenomenal Lebanese breakfast. I think one of the only places that have good Lebanese breakfast.
Nice.
So those two, Abdallah's and Musa.
And it's M-U-S-A or?
M-O-U-S-S-A.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an Armenian Lebanese owner and so good. So good. If you like pastrami, if you like sujuk.
I get some lahmacun there?
Yes, phenomenal. So.
Nice. No, I'm Armenian. I'm half Armenian, half Lebanese, actually. So
that's good.
But I'm gonna have to
You'll love
hit that up.
I will. They have some good pastrami.
What's my last question? What's something? Well, I don't want to pin that on you. What's your favorite vacation spot? Let's go with in the Middle East. Where would you go on vacation?
I would always say my hometown.
Yeah.
Regardless whether it's just Middle East or the world. And I've been lucky to travel so many places with work and personal. Bobby knows how much, I had to travel and leave the family, at least in my early years. The reason is it's just home.
Yeah. What city is that?
It's called Baalbek.
Okay.
Baalbek in Lebanon, and it's a mountainous area. Just the simplicity of life. You know, you just wake up, you have
Very
breakfast,
different,
your
yeah.
family, your cousins, your people that you grew up with. You know, it has a pretty significant Roman temples
Mhm.
and ruins that are huge that nobody knows about. You know, bigger than the ones in Rome. It was for some reason that nobody really knows a center of religious pilgrimage for the Phoenician, Greeks, and Roman cultures in the
Yeah.
world for like 9,000 years or 8,000 years, whatever. And so it's a unique city, but it's super simple and
Yeah.
and you know everybody. So
That's
that
cool.
would be my favorite. And then of course New York is another big favorite city
Yeah.
of mine, and I love going to anytime.
Yeah, hard to beat New York. You just,
Yeah.
just
Met
the
my wife
energy-
in New York.
Oh, I didn't know Rosie. I met there.
Yes.
But yeah, she's not from Texas. So.
She's from Florida,
Florida, right, yeah.
originally, yeah, but we met in New York.
Well, awesome. Well, no, I'm so glad we could
Yeah,
make this
thanks
happen.
so much.
I know, man.
This
This
has
is
been great.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, no, just where can people find you? Any,
Yeah.
can they connect with you on?
Listen, I'm on
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, Hussein Shel with one L, because everybody,
Yeah.
misspells
not
it.
like the operator.
And it was on purpose, damn it. But Hussein Shel, I'm on LinkedIn. If anybody has a question or guidance, or I do mentor people sometimes when I have a chance. And so reach out to me. For any customers listening to this, just please reach out if you have a problem you're trying to solve, any partners. And then I appreciate you having me, man. This is fun.
No, I mean,
I've been
like
trying to
I
do
said,
this forever.
for a couple of years now. Even
It's a pleasure.
no, glad we could do it. So
Absolutely.
anything
Sure.
else for the viewers? Any likes?
No, Bobby and I have finally got some stuff scheduled for some more podcasts. So hopefully we'll keep these rolling and get back on some kind of frequency for you guys.
Yeah,
But
we got another one
appreciate
next
you
week.
kicking it
Of
up,
course.
kicking it off for
Yeah,
us for
2026.
2026.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
It's an awesome year. So thank you.
Appreciate
for
it, guys.
having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you, y'all.